It is KCIM Sports Rewind on the air here on 1380 AM, 95.1 FM KCIM. Since the Iowa State Cyclones lost this weekend, we're just going to skip right by all that college stuff. I don't think there's any need to rehash that, guys. Don't you think?
Well, there was one good thing that happened this weekend.
No, I mean, your Nebraska
sports,
team stunk.
I do want to say something. It was a great weekend to be a Hawkeye fan.
It was. 42-point. Man, you guys were the juggernaut of the offense of the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Ran for over 300 yards. Even Nebraska and Iowa State lost. So,
yes.
there you go.
Did I not tell you at the beginning of the season that Iowa would have a good offense?
Yeah.
Is that third straight game over 40 points?
I would have to look, but
I think so.
I didn't expect us to put 40-some on Wisconsin.
They're averaging 38 a game in their wins this year. So.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I didn't want to see the game. How did Sullivan play?
He actually, we didn't even throw the ball that much. It was 7-10 for like 93 yards, but it was the 300 yards on the ground and his ability to escape sacks and run the football that really helped. Yeah.
Again, just the defense had to finally watch for something else out there besides, just a quarterback that stands in the pocket all day. So, yeah, Iowa seems to be trending in the right direction for these days.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Nebraska, do we even want to talk about them?
Nope.
Okay. Choked it away against UCLA. Was it 27-20, something like that?
And not defending Nebraska at all, but everybody that says UCLA was horrible because of their record, you got to look at the schedule. Their losses, Oregon, LSU, Penn State, and another team that's Indiana that's ranked in the top 10. So their 4 of their 5 losses. The other one was to Minnesota, who's now sitting 6-3. They haven't lost to a bad football team yet this year. So their record
hurts though because they were at home.
It hurts a lot. Believe you me, that's the reason why I don't want to talk about it still.
Yeah. Iowa State, they come up a little short in that ballgame. It kind of looked like, they were going to do it again. Rocco Becht with a late comeback.
Yep.
But, that defense that has stood up so well in the second half just couldn't do it that time. Texas Tech, you got to give them a little credit on that one, man. They played well.
They're that franchise and that program that sometimes jumps up and bites somebody that they're not supposed to, and they've done that to Iowa State before.
So Casey rules the day when it comes to college football on today's program.
First time all year.
Let's get to our All Rewind team. There's a lot of names we're going to be throwing out at you here in the next few minutes here. So these are all kids that are invited to the Rewind festivities, correct?
Yes, and they're coming up on Sunday out of the Carroll High School gym. Again, doors are going to be open at 12:45. Event will get underway about 1 o'clock. Now, again, we're going to have the first team All Rewind volleyball team against the second one, and then the third team against honorable mention. Will play to 3 sets, depending on if they win the first two. The first 2 sets will be to 21. Third set will be to 15. And then our cross-country kids, football kids, and swim kids will all be in a dodgeball tournament. And then following that, we're going to have our football passing competition and then our award ceremony. All the things I'm typing up about all the kids will be posted to the website, and that'll go up sometime on Sunday afternoon so people can find that. So when we do the award ceremony, we'll just literally read off the kid's name, have them come out and get their shirt and certificate.
And I do want to mention that if you are a kid that's like, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to go because I can't participate in anything.
You're participating.
You can.
Yes.
The state and the union have said that everybody, if you're freshman through senior, can participate in the All-Star games too.
So it's not just seniors playing in the stuff now. So
that's a very welcome change for all of that. So we're going to start, and actually a little bit different this year. We've got the swimmers and the cross country included, like you said here. So where are we going to start with the boys here?
We'll start with boys cross country, and I'll take Dayton Wiederen of the Kemper Knights.
Reg Potts of South Central Calhoun.
Fletch Bading from the Kemper Knights.
And then you got Landon Sporer, Riley Aragon, and Owen Engel, all from the ESAC Raiders.
So, cross-country boys runner of the year, Casey.
Reg Potts, and I think that when you look at his meets, throughout the regular season, he was finishing in the top 4. I don't know if he finished outside of that besides, the state meet. Right. He won the Twin Lakes Conference meet, and countless other meets this year. Was, I think, just overall our most consistent boys runner place-wise and time-wise.
Yeah, had the best time of the year, and I think there was a stretch where he won 3 straight meets, if I remember correctly. So missed a couple of meets, was battling some injury and illness, but had a tremendous year for him.
How about cross-country boys coach of the year?
That's going to be our actual overall coach of the year, and that's going to be Robert Cast of IK Manning. So he'll be both our girls and boys coach of the year, because these coaches coach both the boys and the girls. So
I ruined the surprise.
No, you're good.
Dang it. dang it. All right, let's move on to the.
He already knows. Let's just say that when he was the only cross country coach invited to come for Sunday, he kind of knew that.
I'll try to keep my mouth shut before before I'm supposed to say it. Let's talk about the girls all rewind team that begins with Reagan Garrison of IKM Manning along with Emily Albertson.
And then also of IKM Manning. Then from South Central Calhoun, Emily, Iris Melody and Bree Patterson.
And then from Kemper, Casey Wiederin.
East Sac County, Libby Veitz, and the cross-country runner of the year
is
for the girls.
Iris Melody of South Central Calhoun put together another great year, battled some hip issues and issues that kept her from always being able to train. In fact, she qualified for state and then didn't get a run again until the state meet and stuff. So, but did well. She went up there, improved by 20 spots over her previous appearance there, tied her season best and personal best up there. So I think she came out of there pretty happy on Saturday with one more year to go.
Yeah, congratulations to Iris Melody, our South Central Calhoun girls cross-country runner of the year. Let's go to swimming real quick for the girls. Alexis Borkowski of Carroll.
Yes, she is our girl swimmer of the year.
And I think when you talk to Deb, their most consistent swimmer this year. You know, with 4 girls, it was hard for them to really compete in meets this year. And I think Alexis, night in and night out for them, was probably their most consistent swimmer of the year, and she did well deserving of the girl swimmer of the year.
Yeah, and just to explain to anybody out there that's frustrated that we just named a swimmer of the year, we're not comparing the athletes in any of these sports to everybody across the state. We're comparing them to the schools that we cover that have those sports. And in swimming, we have just one team, so there's nobody to compare them to. So to be able to get them involved, we're naming just a swimmer of the year. It would be, there's nobody really to compare them to go, here's our best. Plus, they only had 4 girls swim most of the year, 3 at a lot of the events. So there just wasn't a lot of kids this year to put onto a team.
A strange year for the girls swim team because normally they're loaded.
Yes.
So
and numbers should go back up and stuff next year. I think you've seen all of the girls that swam this year going out and setting personal best and cutting time pretty much every single meet. So they've had a nice year, even though the numbers are low.
All right, let's get to volleyball. First of all, we're going to begin with honorable mention here on the Rewind team. From the Glidden-Ralston Wildcats, it's Lauren Hulsing and Ashlyn Tigas.
From IKM Manning, we had Grace Carroll and Carly Arp.
From South Central Calhoun, Alexa Hollum.
Anna Larson from the Audubon Wheelers.
From Carroll, Emily Puck and Emerson Wittrock.
And from Exire Okran Kimballton, Riley Miller and Brooklyn Flathers.
All right, we're going to move on to the third team, all volleyball rewind team. And from the IKM Manning Wolves, Anna Stangl and Addison Bandow.
From Coon Rapids, Baird Amelia Cook and then Anna Hart.
From the Carroll Tigers, Olivia Rowetter.
From the Kemper Knights, Colby Peter.
And then from ESAC, Caitlin Schmidt and Jordan Carroll.
All right, second team now for the volleyball all rewind team. From the Kemper Knights, Carson Overmole, Brooke Roy, and Mariah Houghton.
From the Carroll Tigers, Caitlin Aiden.
And then from Elgzyra Elkhorn Kimballton, Taryn Peterson and Jalen Peterson.
From IKM Manning, you've got Keegan Eichide.
And from South Central Calhoun, Nora Redazel.
First team, all rewind volleyball team. Of course, you knew this was going to feature a lot of Kemper Knights as they're at the state volleyball tournament. Kaylee Simons, Brianna Wittrock, and Elsa Tiefenthaler.
And I'm just going to talk a little bit about each one of them here. Kaylee Simons, I think one of the elite liberos in the entire state of Iowa. Her ability to be able to anticipate a play before it happens and put herself in the right position to be able to make the play, the way she communicates with her hitters and her setters about what's going on the other side of the net. Outstanding at digging and also very strong in serve receive. Brianna Wittrock, wow, what a player and what a season. We knew last year she was going to be really good, and this year took that game to a whole nother level. There's not a weakness in her game. And then Elsa Tiefenthaler, so athletic, great server, outstanding setter, seems to put her hitters in a great spot and always seems to move the ball around, keep all the hitters involved, can dig as well and plays a really strong back row. So very, very good player.
So those 3 from the Kemper Knights. How about Addison Ayler from East Sac County, Casey?
Addie had a great season. At times was ESAC's only option they had on offense, and at countless nights I remember me and Jeff typing up 20 kills, 30 kills. The way she started the season was incredible. Averaging, 15 to 20 kills a game, and she's just done a fantastic senior season. And we didn't I wouldn't quite say we expected it from her coming into this year, because last year they had so many other hitters on that team, but this year she took her game to a whole other level and well deserving of that first team spot.
And she's going to go into the record books at ESAC as one of the best offensive players, numbers-wise, that they've ever had.
How about from the Audubon Wheelers, Harlow Miller?
Kind of the same thing with Addison Healer. Harlow, a lot of times, was, for a good portion of the season, was the only hitter, really, that consistently that Audubon had and carried them. But she's not just a great swinger. She's outstanding defensively at the net, plays a terrific back row. She's a really good server. She's put a ton of time into being where she's at on the volleyball court, and it's well-deserved for her. Just a sweet, nice young girl, and has really made herself into an elite volleyball player.
From South Central Calhoun, Casey, you got J.C. Gravy and Brenna McAllister.
I mean, what's to say about those two? They've been starting varsity since they were freshmen, and just wrapped up their senior season with a regional final appearance. One of the first for them, in their South Central Calhoun Titan career, and both two fantastic hitters. Brenna does a great job serving. I think J.C. at times took her game to a whole other level when she really needed to, and same with Brenna. I think the explosiveness from Brenna really provided South Central Calhoun with a great hitter as well, and I don't know, you can't say too many, you can't say enough great things, about those two girls.
And I kind of like to kid JC. She was a first-team all-rewind player as a freshman and sophomore as a setter. They move her to a hitter, and now she's closed out her career with 2 first-team bids as a hitter as well.
And our final member of the all-rewind volleyball team, Malia Clayberg of Coon Rapids Baird.
A great player, such a gritty athlete that works so hard and plays so hard at every moment out on the floor, no matter what sport it is. Tremendous hitter this year. Carried that offense for a good portion of the year, but doesn't just play well in the front. She's also a tremendous player in the back row as well, serves well. There's not anything really that she doesn't do well for them.
Let's talk about the player of the year now for volleyball. There was a lot of players in contention, including Addison Ayler, Kylie Simons, Addison Ayler from ESAC, Kylie Simons from Kemper, Audubon's Harlow Miller, Malia Clayberg. Jeff, you just talked about her from Coon Rapids Baird. But the player of the year, Brianna Wittrock of the Kemper Knights.
And there was a debate about it. We had so many players that had great years this year, but Brianna led the state in 3A in blocks and maybe led the state overall in blocks this year. An outstanding server, I think, over 50 aces on the year, led the Knights in kills this year and hit close to 262 if I remember correctly. So not a weakness in her game, and she's a great leader out on the floor as well.
And she did a great job. I know last year when after Kemper lost up at state, in the quarterfinals, and me and Jeff both looked at each other and was like, Brianna's going to be a great player next year.
Yep.
And she did. She took her game, like Jeff mentioned earlier, to a whole different level this year, over 300 kills. I think she did end up leading the state in blocks. If you look at it, total wise, I'm not sure on a per match basis, but total wise, almost 200 blocks in the season. Does a great job in the background. I think led Kemper in serve percentage. I don't think like in serve success or anything like that, but I think had almost a 93% clip, when she served. So did a great job of getting the ball over the net there.
All right, Coach of the Year for the volleyball team. A lot of coaches in contention. Emma Schleisman from South Central Calhoun. Derek Reischauer.
Yep.
From Exira Elkhorn Kimballton. Riley Ludwig of Carroll. And Brandon Steiger of Esac County. But our Coach of the Year from the Kemper Knights is Rusty Wintermote.
Yeah, third straight trip down to the state volleyball tournament. We're recording this and talking about this, or not recording this, but airing this, the first day that they're at the state tournament, so we don't know how they finish down there yet. But has just done a tremendous job. And I think the first 2 years, you had a lot of kids back from really good teams. This year, they weren't 100% for sure where they were going to be at the beginning of the year, even though they were ranked high, simply because they had some freshmen that were going to have to step in and play critical roles, and they did a great job of implementing them in and game planning this year to be 37-3 going into the state tournament.
Yeah, I got to agree. I think what Rusty did this year is kind of great, because we questioned what they would have along the front row. You lose a Franny Glenn and a Casey Peter and a Lauren Bell and the other Houghton girl, Aubrey.
Yep.
And you're like, well, who do they have as hitters besides Brianna? And then you implement, Casey and Mariah, and Zoe Bruning's had a great year. Addie Antover, Olivia Schenkelberg.
Yep.
They've got 5 girls that they can go to at the front row, and that's a testament to, like you said, to Rusty, game planning, preparing, making sure that the girls get in and do their off-season workouts with them and doing camps and stuff like that to really get the girls prepared for the season.
And the thing that's got to scare everybody is that they're not losing much off of this year's team.
Two seniors.
So they're going to be even better next year.
All right, let's move on to football. This is a little bit different. You got a lot of players out there. Some
Yes.
may move around a little bit here on their positions, right?
Yeah, so you can make both offense and defense. So just because you're like maybe a second team offensive player, you might be first team defense. You can be on both sides of the football.
All right, let's begin with honorable mention. We'll start with a trio from South Central Calhoun. Honorable mention football is Caleb Jewell, Hayden Stickrod, and Andrew Anderson.
From Esac County, Sam Julin, Calvin Chedister, and Jack Gullett.
From Audubon, Carson Wessel.
From the Carroll Tigers, you had Eric Heisterkamp and Carter Essick.
From ICAM Manning, Carson Purdue and Ben Ramsey.
From Glidden Ralston, Trainer Coast and Colin Sturm.
And finally, from the Arweeva Rockets, there's Jonathan Rizzelman. We're going to move on to the second team here, and tell us where we're going to start, Jeff.
We'll start with second team offense, and our second team quarterback is Brock Bading of the Kemper Knights.
Our second team running backs are Davis Rasmussen, Ike Manning, and then Caden Oswald of Coon Rapids Baird.
The offensive line, second team from the Coon Rapids Baird Crusaders, Tyler Moore. From Glidden Ralston, it's Daniel Toft, Ikea Manning, Jace Starman, and from the Arweeva Rockets, both Tyson Von Glahn and Devin Ehlers.
We'll move over to wide receivers, Asher Lawler of East Sac County, along with Reese Zigman and Owen Clucky, both of the Carroll Tigers.
And then our first team kicker from Kemper is
Second team
kicker
Yeah.
is Charlie Mayhall.
All right, let's move on to the second team defense. Along the defensive line, a couple of Audubon Wheelers, Eli Jorgensen and Colton Hansen make second team defensive line.
And for Mike, go ahead. Yep.
Ben Langle of IKM Manning also joins them, and Waylon Hine from Glidden Ralston.
For our linebackers, you got Wade Regaller of Arweeva, Alex Daniel of Glidden Ralston, Davis Rasmussen of IKM Manning, and Quentin Polking from the Carroll Tigers.
Second team defensive backs, two East Sac County Raiders and Asher Lawler and Carson Schmidt, and then Jack Steinerson of Audubon.
And the punter from second team defense, Mason Stitz of the Carroll Tigers. Let's move on now to the first team
And
on
John,
the offense.
and before we started, just want to explain to everybody, offensively, we pretty much said you have to have 5 offensive linemen and a quarterback plus a kicker, and then running backs and wide receivers can vary. So we debated, and it's like I told the guys, I'm like, you can have 4 wide receivers and 1 running back or 3 running backs, because everybody runs different sets. Kind of the same thing defensively. You could have anywhere from 3 to 5 defensive linemen and 3 to 5 linebackers. So it's whatever, and then defensive back. So we had to fit it in to be able to get 11 guys plus a punter or kicker. But the amount of guys at each position besides offensive line really could vary.
All right, let's start talking about the quarterback. First team offense is Colby Wallace of Glidden Ralston.
Great year for him. They don't throw a lot, so when you're looking at his passing numbers, they're not going to jump off the board, but he made that offense go this year. He was very accurate when he threw the football. I think he completed over 60% of his passes, had a number of touchdowns, had a nice yards per throw, per attempt average this year, but nobody could stop him on the ground, really. He was dominant on the ground, and, they won a lot of football games because his legs, kept that offense churning.
Probably the most, I would say, one of the most dominant players for Glidden Ralston offensively this season. Led 8-man, was top. I shouldn't say led. Was top 5 in 8-man in rushing and touchdowns this year. So
Yep.
talks about how good of a year he had rushing the football. And as you mentioned, not your typical quarterback. He's going to run it more than he's going to pass it. But when he did pass it, he was very accurate with it. I remember typing up times he was 6 of 5 for 70 yards in a touchdown and stuff like that. So Colby had a great year, a great senior season, and really helped Glidden Ralston get to those wins.
Got 3 members of the running back group, Tayden Peterson of the Carroll Tigers, Aaron Olson of Audubon, and Jaron Huffman of Kemper.
And Tayden, what a season he had. I wouldn't say he came out of nowhere this year, but I think coming into the year, a lot of people thought, well, Reese Zigman could have a big year for him, and Tayden just pretty much became the guy and the focal point of that offense. Yep, from the very first game on. Physical kid that's also got the ability when he gets into the open field to make you miss and then to run away from you. But inside, he's going to get you that extra couple of yards just because he's such a big, strong, physical kid. Aaron Olson didn't always play running back this year because Carson Wessel went down, and I think just to say something about Carson, he probably would have been higher on our All Rewind team, but missed several games due to injury, and Aaron had to fill in at quarterback. He was the quarterback a year ago, but tremendous year. Dominated every time he touched the ball. Huge runs, just such a great player on the offensive end. And then Jaron Hoffman didn't start right away for Kemper, but took over that starting running back job a couple of games into the season, and I think changed how they ran their offense. They were going to be a team that I think wanted to rely more on throwing the football, and then Jaron came in, and all of a sudden they're like, we've got a guy that can run for 150 yards a game. Let's give it to him 25 to 27 times per ball game, and he's just going to continue to churn out yards, and he had a great year.
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate on what Jeff said, I think Tayden came out of nowhere this year, and you look at all three of them put together, you know, Tayden and Aaron averaging, Aaron over 8 yards a carry, Tayden, you know, almost had 8 yards a carry, and Jaron's ability to run between the tackles and play physical football, you know, just gives them a physical running back, and that's really what you like to see, and all three well-deserving of first-team mentions.
Wide receiver group, there's a couple of them here. Carson Canny of the Kemper Knights and Wyatt Regaler of Arweva.
Speaking of Carson's just, a terrific athlete in general and everything that he does. You know, we figured coming into the season was probably going to be Kemper's number one option, and boy, did he show out. I probably didn't average quite the yards per catch he wanted to, but it seemed like they really tried to get him the ball out of the slot a lot. You know, he was a lot of times 10 catches for 90 yards or 10 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. You know, just his ability to make plays at line of scrimmage and get them the ball in short yardage and make big plays, I think really helped Kemper in the passing game that really came on towards the end of the season. And you look at Wyatt's numbers, his rushing number is going to be better than his receiving numbers, but we all felt that he much needed first team, but led Arweva in receiving as well as, you know, rushing. And, you know, can't speak of the 8 touchdown performance he had against Fremont Mills in the opening round of the playoffs. So Wyatt, just a terrific all-around athlete for Arweva.
And two quick things here. Carson Canny, a little guy, but not afraid to go across the middle and take the hit and still make the catch. And then you mentioned Wyatt. He's more of a running back than a receiver, but he's a first-team kid, and he catches so many passes out of the backfield. He's like a wide receiver, but they just want to get the ball in that young man's hands as often as they can.
All right, offensive line. It's dominated by Carroll Tigers here. 3 members of the Tigers, Gavin Holt, Logan Menken, and Noah Hinners, along with Colton Hansen from Audubon and Hayden Vanami of Kemper.
Those 3 Carroll guys is as good as you're going to find in our area. That offensive line, you know, we talk about how good of a year Tayden Peterson had. A lot of that, not taking anything away from Tayden, but a lot of that was he had probably the best offensive line in the area, and 3 truly dominant guys with Gavin Holt. Logan Macon and Noah Hinners are guys that are going to definitely play at the next level, and I think Gavin probably will as well. So 3 terrific guys there. Colton Hansen, you know, part of the reason Audubon can have 2 guys that run for 140 to 180 yards per game is because they're guys up front, and Colton Hansen's the guy that leads that, and just tremendous blocker up front, outstanding really on both sides of the ball. And then Hayden Vanami, the center for Kemper this year, was really the steadying force for them. When you talk about Jaron Hoffman getting a lot of those yards up the gut and inside the tackles, it's because of the blocking of Hayden Vanami, and does a great job in pass protection as well. And then as a center, you've got to get everybody kind of understanding what the calls are and who, if they're the other team's blitzing, and you got to make you're the guy that controls that offensive line.
All right, we're going to move on to first-team kicker. That is Cole Higgins of South Central Calhoun.
And Cole's had a great year. I mean, had a pretty much a game-winning kick against IKM Manning, you know, for his lone field goal make of the year and lone field goal attempt, and kind of played big, and I think was really accurate on his PATs so far this season as well, and kind of gave, you know, South Central Calhoun a different threat offensively. You know, they knew that if they didn't have to essentially go for it on 4th down if they were in their own territory, you know, they could kick that field goal to get 3 points on the board.
And a guy that plays both sides of the ball plus special teams, so doesn't get a break.
Let's move over to the first-team defense. And again, as he mentioned, we got 3 defensive linemen, 5 linebackers in this alignment here. So let's talk about the defensive line. It's Tyson Von Glahn of the Arweva Rockets, Ryan Sundrip of the Kemper Knights, and Jason Aviles.
Jason Aviles, is how they pronounce it. But Tyson Von Glahn from Arweva is just a monster up front, and I mean that because he dominates people up there. He can bull rush you, he can beat you with speed. He just seems to be in the backfield all the time, and had a tremendous year for them. Ryan Sundrip, I know some people may look at tackle numbers, but you know, defensive lineman, it's now always about getting tackles. I think he's a guy that puts great pressure on the quarterback. He's the guy that contains the run game and makes sure it doesn't get to the outside. When you would watch Kemper play this year, it seemed like he was the guy that maybe didn't make the tackle, but forced the guy that was carrying the ball or the quarterback to somebody else, and then that other person made the tackle, but was always that guy in the backfield. He made plenty of tackles as well. And then Jason Aviles, man, they're not the same defense without him in the middle.
Defensive line.
I remember the game up at Rock Valley, Boyden Hall, and I almost felt sorry for the quarterback because maybe more for the center. The center was getting shoved into the quarterback, on a pretty quick back pedal every time they would drop back to run or to throw, and he is just a force inside for that defense for Carroll.
Let's talk about the linebacker crew. A couple from the Kemper Knights, Tate Barrett and Kent Sanders. From the Audubon Wheelers, Austin Christensen. From our Weeva, Devin Ehlers. And from the East Sac Raiders, it's Gabe King.
We'll start with Gabe King. Led the area in tackles as a sophomore.
Yep.
I mean, really, you talk to Coach McCullough, and he's like, well, we're not sure what we're quite going to get on defense. Well, Gabe King stepped up in a big way for him.
And I think
this
had
year,
19 and a half tackles in their loss to Woodward Granger, if I remember correctly, in the playoff game.
And then you look at Devin Ehlers from our Weeva, constantly talking with Coach Stolk. Devin flies for the football. He's all over the field. Had over 80 tackles for him on the year, tackles for loss, sacks. Just did it all for our Weeva defensively. And the two Kemper linebackers, what can't be said? Tate and Kent, I think, arguably is the best linebacker duo that we have in the area. They were first-team linebackers last year, returned and picked up the pace with a great season for them as well. And then
sure tacklers. Mm-hmm. When they get to you, you're going down.
Yeah, especially Tate. I don't think I've seen Tate get ran over so far at all this year. I mean, when Tate hits you, you're more than likely going down. And Austin Christensen, still a first-team linebacker in our eyes, has missed some time this season, but I witnessed him against St. Ed's have 17 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 2 picks. I mean, he was just all over the field.
Yeah.
And really a kid that plays sideline to sideline, and when he's playing defense for Audubon, they're a completely different team.
Yeah, too bad for him that he has missed about 4 games now of this season because he's elite. He is absolutely an elite defender.
Defensive backfield includes Griffin Glenn from the Kemper Knights and a couple of Audubon Wheelers, Adam Obrecht and Aaron Olson.
So Griffin Glenn didn't start early in the year, but once he got on the field, he's a lockdown corner. I'm surprised after the first few games that teams tried to throw his way because guys were never open when he was defending them. That allowed him, I think he finished, 6 or 7 interceptions. Mm-hmm. I'm still not 100% on those numbers, but really close to that. He was one of the leading interceptors in the area. Just a tremendous player, great athlete, and I think a kid that works really hard in a lot of different sports. You mentioned it several times throughout the year, Casey, that Audubon has the best secondary in our area, and it proves with 2 first-team defensive backs. Adam Obrecht, I think, led the area in interceptions, or at least was leading. Did Aaron pass him?
So Audubon coming into today has 24 interceptions as a team. Aaron's got 8, Adam's got 7.
Yeah.
And Adam also led them in tackles this year. As a kid that, I talked to Sean Burks. I'm sorry to kind of interrupt.
No, you're good because you've covered Audubon every time for us this year.
Talking to Sean, Adam last year had a season-ending injury and was going to rotate in at cornerback and play a lot of cornerback for him last year. So essentially getting his first reps this year at cornerback at a varsity level to lead the team in tackles and have 7 interceptions, I think is just absolutely crazy. And Aaron was a first-team safety last year. Picked up his play. Probably didn't quite have as many tackles as he wanted because I think they were kind of trying to, save him a little bit for both sides because he plays, he's the punt returner. He's he's out there on special teams, plays running back. They need him in the receiving game as well. But still, to have 8 interceptions on the season, I think is kind of a testament to how good he is at the safety spot.
And didn't make as many tackles because everybody in front of him was tackling the guy before they could get to him.
All right, punter on first team. That's Connor Keneally of the Kemper Knights.
Yeah, had a really good year for them. Led us, I think, in average this year per punts, and just put together a tremendous season for them.
Let's talk about the offensive player of the year. A number in consideration, including Tayden Peterson and Colby Wallace. Tayden from Carroll and Colby from Glidden Ralston. But the offensive player of the year is Aaron Olson of Audubon Wheelers.
And I think that people are going to look at his numbers and not realize that he moved to running back this year.
Right.
He was a quarterback all throughout middle school and high school, and I think at the start of the season really took some time for him to get used to the running back role, but was still running for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. It just talks about how much preparation he puts into what he does on the field and how smart of a kid he is. Sean always talks about, Aaron's one of the first guys to watch film and then write comments on our Google Sheet that they have, and that just speaks to the preparation that goes into him every week and just how smart of a football player is and how much he really loves to play football.
And one of the things I mentioned this earlier this year, Sean always emails us kind of a play-by-play recap of the Audubon games, and I like to go through and read through them. Early in the year, he may not have been getting a lot of the touchdowns, but if you looked, it was like Aaron Olson breaks off a 44-yard run and sets up Audubon at the 2-yard line, and then somebody else would score. So he wasn't always getting the touchdowns early, but a lot of times he was the guy that was contributing the big play to set up the touchdown.
And you say that was crazy because I'm almost going to bet that you look at overall, he led the area probably in touchdowns, had 21 rushing touchdowns, 3 receiving, and then a couple throwing. So, I mean, you're almost at 30 touchdowns right there, so that's kind of crazy.
Defensive Player of the Year, a number in consideration, including Adam Obrecht from Audubon, Gabe King of East Sac, Devin Ehlers of Arweva, but the Defensive Player of the Year, Tate Barrett for the Kemper Knights.
Yeah, just as good as you're going to get at the linebacker position. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody at the linebacker position that gets through the offensive line as quickly as he does and either gets the running back or gets to the quarterback on a pass play. He is dynamite at doing homework and understanding, what the other team's going to do and then exploiting any kind of a crease. And then once he gets with his hands on you, you're going down. You're not getting away from him. He's a wrestler, and he just knows how to wrap you up and get you to the ground.
All right, Coach of the Year, that's the last one we have to name here. The final 4 football teams, all included here. Ryan Steinkamp of the Kemper Knights, Austin Stolk of the Arweva Rockets, Craig Rowetter of the Carroll Tigers, but the Coach of the Year, Sean Burks from the Audubon Wheelers.
I think coming into the season, Audubon, we looked at him and probably had the best overall team, and, we knew that they would probably be where they're at right now, getting to play in the state quarterfinal game coming up on Thursday. But I think that you look at the preparation that goes into each week and what Sean and his staff do, I think exceeded the expectations that we saw from this team. You're moving a kid from quarterback to wide receiver, a kid that's played that hasn't really had meaningful snaps at the varsity level at quarterback, and Carson Wessel had a great season. You look at what they did defensively in the secondary with the pieces that they have there, and what Sean and his staff does week in and week out really rivals, I would arguably say anybody else here in the area and even the state.
I'll just make this comment about him. You talk to other coaches about potential matchups that are coming up on Audubon's schedule, and the first thing they'll tell you is Sean and his staff will outcoach whoever they have to go up against, because they do just a tremendous job of getting that group of kids ready to go, and then the kids understand what they're supposed to do and they go out and execute it.
Again, those are all the kids that will be included in all Rewind festivities. When is that going to happen, Jeff?
It is this coming Sunday out at the Carroll High School gym. Again, we'll have the doors opening at about 12:45. Then we'll have our volleyball all-star game. So we're going to have first team against second team and third team against honorable mention. And then we'll play best of 3. So if you win the first 2 sets, you're done. We'll play to 21 the first 2 sets, 15 to the third. Following that, we're going to have a best of 3 dodgeball tournament, and we're going to have the football players, cross-country athletes, and Alexis Borkowski from the swim team all involved in that, so that should be fun. And then we have a football passing competition that the kids have really enjoyed. We've got the coaches to do it a few times, so we'll see if they want to do it, but we'll have that going on Saturday or Sunday as well. And then following that, we'll have the award ceremony where all of the kids and coaches will be awarded their shirt and their certificate for making the All Rewind teams.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back, talk a little playoff football and volleyball next on KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
Okay.
Welcome back, KCIM Sports Rewind. Of course, we got the all Rewind festivities coming up this Sunday, and the whole team is online, correct?
Yes. Okay. It'll be posted shortly after the show. I've got it scheduled to go up a little bit after 10 o'clock.
All right. So. It's Tuesday morning, supposedly. And you guys are not here. You are over in Coralville right now.
Yes, we've got great phone reception over here, and everything's going well. Yeah. Casey and I are sitting at the hotel getting ready to head down to the arena.
Through the miracle of radio, we bring you them live here. We were recording this on Monday, but
thanks, John.
Let's talk football here. Football playoffs. You got 2 teams left, Kemper and Audubon. Are these guys dome bound? I mean, talk about the matchups coming up this Friday.
Both of them are going to go on the road. We'll start with Audubon on Thursday. They got Remsen St. Mary's, and just talking with Sean after the game, I did a 15-minute long interview with him, just talking about, one thing I want to say, picked up his 100th career win.
Congratulations.
Last Friday. And I asked him, and he goes, I didn't even realize that was coming up. He said he had to fill out a form for the state. And I was like, I knew it was at 90, but wasn't sure that everybody knew that it was getting this close. But so shout out to Sean there. But he said Remsen's one place that he has not won in his coaching career, and it's kind of like a bucket list item. You know, when you I look at it this way, when you're going to coach in college football, you want to beat Nick Saban when he was at Alabama. You know, that's something as a coach you're like, gosh, I want to get that. And I think that's kind of the way Sean's looking at the game on Thursday going up to Remsen's is like, we can potentially knock off a perennial state power year in and year out. And it's someone that they've seen a lot at this time of the year. You know, what the last win I think I talked to Sean was in 2019 at the Dome to go to the state championship game. And you know, Remsen 4-2 overall against them, but all of their meetings coming within the last 10 to 5 years. So this is kind of where they want to be at this season, and it's two undefeated teams going at it, and I think Audubon has a really good chance of pulling out the win. You know, two teams that do the same style. They're going to run the football. Remsen a little bit bigger, but Sean feels that with the preparation, like we mentioned, with what his staff does, and that even though they're going to be undersized, the kids might have a little bit more of a speed advantage in that one.
How about the Kemper game?
Kemper's heading up to West Lyon, who's ranked number 1. West Lyon's going to be a really big physical team. They're up there in the north part of the state where it's always cold, so they don't like to throw the football a whole lot. So they're going to want to come out and just pound it at you and run. Big physical team. But, I love this Kemper defense. I like the way they tackle, the grittiness. And Doug Wandiger uses that quite a bit to talk about this Kemper team. They're gritty this year. They've got some young guys, some sophomores, and even some freshmen that have jumped in there and are giving them great minutes. I think the future is outstanding. If they can get Jaron Hoffman established in the ground game and they don't have to just sit back and throw, I think they've got a good chance to be able to come through this. But this is probably by far the best team they have faced on their schedule this season.
All right, we got to wrap things up here, but real quick, you guys going to break all laws of physics and nature and be in Coralville on the air on Kick 106.7 here in just a little bit. Talk about that matchup, Kemper and Wahlert Catholic.
I think for Kemper, they've got to feel pretty good. They're the 5, and Wahlert Catholic is the 4 seed. And talking to Coach Wintermote, you've got Wahlert Catholic is kind of a mixture of Clarinda style with, Des Moines Christian style with Clarinda's height. So I think Coach feels really good. They're not going to be a big, tall team, but they are going to be very aggressive in the back. They're not going to let a lot of things hit. They're going to try to force you to make mistakes. So we may have some really long rallies here today until one of the teams kind of has an unforced error type of a game.
And one more thing I think that Coach Wintermote really likes, I talked to him after they beat Clarinda, last week, and he says, we like that they haven't played anybody that we've seen.
Yep.
Two opposite sides of the state, don't have any common opponents, so he really likes that there's like it's going to be a feel each other out kind of to start the game because they're not familiar with each other.
Very interesting matchup in that opening round, that is for sure. So that hits the air about 11:40 this morning on Kick 106.7. First serve at 12 noon. Best of luck to the Kemper Knights. And that is going to do it. That is KCIM Sports Rewind for this week.